Alright guys, questions and answer time. Today, 12 questions that you guys sent me at LFSGQuestions@gmail.com for me to answer. So I've picked 12, and if I haven't picked yours yet, you can try the question again, or if you have another question, you can always send it to me. But today, I'm going to let you know about 12 questions that you guys have sent me coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. Yes, today it's all about your questions. If you're interested in finding out about certain things and you want my recommendations or anything like that, suggestions, you can always send those questions to me at lfsgquestions@gmail.com. And I'm still trying to get a handle of these question answer videos. They're turning out to be a little too complex. And there's going to come a time where it's going to be a lot easier for me to do these. And again, as I was telling or saying in other videos, other question answer videos, that I will pick out clips from these long videos and air them separately so that if anybody searches for a specific topic, they can find it easily. But before I also start the questions, I'm going to cover a couple of other topics that are necessarily or not necessarily like questions, but they've been asked these questions over and over again, and some other little issues that I want to cover. So I'll get to all of that. But before I do, if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you still haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So the first thing I want to cover, I have some notes here. A lot of you ask me, please, please, please review oils, dabbers, and attars, and things like that. And I just want to be upfront and let you guys know I don't review those types of fragrances on this channel because it's not what I'm into. I personally do not like to dab, so I don't really like dabbers, attars, oils, roller balls, or whatever those are called. I just don't. I like to spray, and I like to move on after I'm spraying. So for me, I guess oils, you know, attars and things like that don't have a lot of projection, and I want that cloud, that spray and things like that with my fragrances, and I never accomplish anything like that with the oils, attars, you know, whatever, the roller balls or whatever. So unfortunately, I will not be reviewing any of those. Now, if any of them I cross paths with that I really, really like, and I've, you know, tested it out for some reason and I enjoyed it, I might do it, and I'll let you know in the video. But for me, I don't even have any fragrances that are oils and you know, attars and things like that. I mean, I might have some here and there, but I don't rarely use them because it's just, it doesn't work for me. Anyway, sorry that if it might upset you guys that I will not review these, but they're just not my taste. Okay, a couple of other things. You guys asked me a lot about reviewing Bond number 9, and if you don't see reviews on my channel of certain houses or certain fragrances, it's probably because I don't want to review that house or that fragrance, or I don't like that house or that fragrance. So this is all I'm going to say about Bond number 9 or any other houses that I've not covered on the channel. But most likely those two reasons are the reasons behind why I don't have videos about certain houses. And speaking of BN9, if you were following me on the previous channel, a lot of you know probably. That's all I'm going to leave it at. So anyway, as I said, if you don't see a brand or a specific fragrance on the channel, most likely I don't want to cover it, most likely I don't want to speak about it, or most likely I hate it. So those are the three reasons why you might not see a brand or a specific fragrance. So one more thing I want to cover real quickly. 3 fragrances are soon to come out from Maison Christian Dior collection. I think they're going to start cranking out a ton. Probably, maybe they kind of didn't do much last year with the pandemic, although they launched Rouge Trafalgar, and then now they've launched, wait, they did launch Oud Rosewood as well, I think, during the pandemic, but I think it was outside of the States here. But this year they launched Tabacolor, and there's 3 more coming out. There's Eden Rock, there's Vanilla Diorama, and then also Soleil Bigarade. So Eden Rock is supposed to launch any day now. Soon, very, very soon. I don't know anything about this fragrance. All I know is I've been told about it. And some of you are sending me photos of fragrances that I haven't launched or even nobody's announced yet, like Vanilla Diorama or Diorama, and then Soleil Bigarade. So I'm really, really excited about those the next two, because I know the Eden Rock is coming out, but I have no idea what it's about, because Eden Rock doesn't really tell me what the fragrance is about. But Vanilla Diorama tells me it's going to be about vanilla. Soleil Bigarade, Bigarade oranges, sun, you know, those kind of tell me what they're going to be about. So I'm kind of excited. It's, you know, I do like Dior. I like Maison Christian Dior. Some misses and some great ones. I'm enjoying Tobacco Color a lot. I'm enjoying Rouge Trafalgar a lot. Oud Rosewood was not my favorite. Kind of boring, but either way, I'm looking forward to the next three fragrances from, you know, this particular Maison Christian Dior house. All right, let's start with the first question. Hi, Sebastian. First off, I want to tell you how wonderful your YouTube channel is. You're one of the very few YouTubers who comprehends and grasps scent fully. Because of your recommendations, I ventured to blind buy several fragrances, including Diorama Intense, MFK Baccarat Rouge 540, Louis Vuitton's Afternoon Swim, and Cactus Garden, and several more. Now I'm ready to buy my next fragrance, yet I can't decide between Portrait of a Lady or Louis Vuitton's L'Immensité. I have found Louis Vuitton's fragrances to be very high quality and long lasting. I have yet to sample Portrait of a Lady, so it would be a blind buy. Which one would you recommend? I appreciate your channel very much. Keep up the wonderful work you do. Thank you, Juan. Okay, so Juan's talking about two completely different fragrances, of which he sampled L'Immensité from Louis Vuitton here, of which he hasn't sampled Portrait of a Lady from Frederic Malle here. So night and day different. I would call L'Immensité a fresh citrus fragrance with ambroxan, and I would call Portrait of a Lady an amber oriental, spicy, woody, resinous, you know, patchouli, incense kind of a thing. So they're completely different fragrances. And for me, we're going into summer, and even though I think there are no rules with wearing fragrances, wear what you like when you want. Unless it really annoys you to wear something really strong in the summertime, I say there are no rules, so you make up the rules yourself. But since we are going into summer, I'm still going to recommend L'Immensité before I recommend Portrait of a Lady, even though I prefer Portrait of a Lady much more than I prefer L'Immensité. One of the reasons why I don't recommend Portrait of a Lady as a blind buy is because it's so intense, and men generally think it's a feminine fragrance, even though I find it to be unisex, ultra unisex. It is lots of floral notes, but there's also lots of spices and woods and resins, so it to me makes a very unisex offering. Also, the intensity and the depth and the beefiness of this fragrance, I think, again, there are no rules, but I think it is more suited for wearing in the fall and in the winter and even springtime. Definitely not a summer fragrance. But if you can get a sample and sample it, by all means sample it and maybe compare it to L'Immensité and see what you think, because you might say L'Immensité is a weakling compared to Portrait of a Lady, and you might be like, I want to wear that and I can make it my own fragrance and, you know, make it my signature fragrance and wear it day in and day out kind of a thing. L'Immensité for me, a lot of people compare Afternoon Swim from Louis Vuitton to Tigar. For me, L'Immensité is a lot closer to Tigar than Afternoon Swim is, because the combination of Tigar is ambroxan and grapefruit, and the combination of L'Immensité is also grapefruit with ambroxan. So if you like Tigar, this is a great fragrance. I know this has a little more complexity than Tigar. Tigar seems only 3 notes, and I'm thinking either it's musk or something else as a third note. This seems a little more complex, but both fragrances, Tigar and L'Immensité, were created by Jacques Cavalier. So Jacques Cavalier is not coming up with original fragrances, as I mentioned in my haul video from a few days ago, where I was talking about a fragrance from Bulgari, once again in the Le Gemme collection, smelling like Nouveau Monde from Louis Vuitton. So anyway, venturing off a little bit, I personally think you should sample Portrait of a Lady before blind buying it, unless you like, you know, daring fragrances. And I'm not saying this is a daring fragrance, but next to L'Immensité it really is. So I would say blind buy, no. Sample, yes. But if you're not ready to sample, go with L'Immensité. I think it'll be great for summer, and then you can come back to Portrait of a Lady in the fall. Anyway, that's my answer to your question. All right, question number 2 comes from Brad in Canada. Hi, huge fan of your reviews and of Nasomatto Hindu Grass. After watching one of your reviews, the only problem is where the hell can I find it? I've actually ordered directly from Nasomatto, but only able to get a 4 ml bottle. Do you know anyone who is willing to sell a bottle? Thanks, Brad in Canada. So if you have been watching my channel, you know that I'm a fan of patchouli, and Hindu Grass is a very patchouli forward fragrance. But when I was planning a few videos a long time ago, this is probably like 2-3 years ago, with Dahlia about patchouli fragrances, I found out from a retailer that said that this is getting axed. And it almost felt like, was it really getting axed or not? Because I kept still seeing it after this person told me. I'm not going to say who it is, but he told me that it is getting axed because it's expensive. Some of the notes in here are expensive, and I don't understand why it would be expensive, because the notes for Hindu Grass are patchouli, green notes, grass, tobacco. Now these are what's online at the databases, because I don't think Nasomatto publishes their notes, so there could be something in there that is expensive that I'm not knowing it is, but that's pretty much the focus of the fragrance. It's a very green, earthy, woody, patchouli style of fragrance. I think it's less earthy, more woody, but there's some earthiness in there as well. And yes, it has become really, really complicated to get this. I know it's completely removed off of Lucky Scent's website, and Lucky Scent is pretty much the website I turn to, because if their fragrances are discontinued, they're not going to have a page for it, and there's no page for this on their website. So most likely it is definitely discontinued, because if it's out of stock, it'll say it's out of stock. So it is going to be very, very hard to find. But Brad did say that he was able to buy 4 mLs from the Nasomatto store, and yes, I did go to their website, not store, the website, and I did see the 4 mLs there. So maybe they can only produce small quantities of it. I don't really know. I did find a link to it to Xerjoff Perfumery though, but it says it's out of stock, it can't be purchased. So those are the only place I checked. I think best thing for you, if you're really dying to get this one, is do a lot of research online if you can, and buy yourself a bottle as soon as you can find it, because the more it's going to be discontinued, like the time goes on, the more expensive it'll be, and people selling, trying to sell, it's going to be a little complicated. But this is how much I have in my bottle. And I do like it. You know, it's not one of my favorite patchouli fragrances. I love patchouli. This one is more of like a sleeper for me. It's like if I had psychedelic, reminiscence, and a few other similar fragrances that in front, and this was in the back, I might not think about it to grab it, kind of a thing. So even though I like it, it's not one of my favorite patchouli fragrances, but obviously it seems like Brad really likes Hindu Grass, so hopefully, Brad, you can find yourself a bottle. But I'm sorry, I looked up a little bit and did some research, as I said, with Lucky Scent not having a page for it. Xerjoff Perfumery did have a page for it. And the next thing you could do is call these retailers if they still have a page for it, but it says out of stock. See if they have any in the back or something. I don't know. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. But yeah, sadly, I think it's definitely discontinued, this being Hindu Grass. All right, next question comes from Kelvin. I really like your videos. Keep up the great work. I would love to get your opinion on warm weather fragrances with base notes that are typically used for winter fragrances. For example, summer freshies that are heavy in ouds, woods, spices, patchouli, and tobacco. I love ouds, but I find that most of my summer fragrances are citrusy and floral. Thanks in advance, Kelvin. All right, this is a little bit of a challenging topic. As I was saying earlier, there really are no rules about wearing fragrances. If you like a certain heavy fragrance and you want to wear it in the summertime, wear it in the summertime. But what I would try and stay away from are very, very warm notes. There's a distinction between warm notes and fresh notes. There's spicy notes, and then of course there's fresh spicy and then warm spicy. Stay away from the warm spicy notes or the warm notes in general, and then warm notes in general would be fragrances like featuring vanilla, ambers, heavy on the resins and things like that. Spices like cinnamon, cloves, those are all kind of warm notes to me. Fresh spicy is definitely going to be fine, but they'll still have some substance and depth to them, and they could get cloying a little bit, but you'll have to manage your sprays. But that's what I would do, and I've got some suggestions for fragrances here for you that I feel like are perfect. First one I would recommend is this one, Véronique Gabay's Sexy Garrigue, which features labdanum, wood resin, pine, patchouli, aromatic notes, amber. And this one I like because it's still a warm fragrance. It does have the ambery touches, of course, and the vanillic touches, but it's contrasted with some fresh spicy notes or fresh woody notes and things like that. So it's not overly cloying, so you can get away with wearing something like this. In the end, it's kind of a green, aromatic, spicy amber. And it cuts down the ambery touches and the cloying qualities of the amber because it's contrasted with the green woody herbal notes. So I would recommend something like this because I think it would be perfect. But again, it's going to be still warm and sweet, so you have to manage your sprays and things like that. Another fragrance I would recommend is this one here from Atelier Cologne, Emerald Agar. When you look up the notes for this fragrance, they're all, you know, they have some heft to them, but definitely not heavy on the vanilla and amber and things like that. So you can totally get away with something like this because it's more of a fresh, spicy fragrance rather than warm, spicy. The notes in Emerald Agar are oud, gaiac wood, rose, sandalwood, eucalyptus, black pepper. So those are what's really kind of running the show here with this fragrance. And as you can see, I did not mention vanilla or amber here. And you can have that note in the fragrances, but if they're like not heavy in the fragrance, then I think it should be totally fine. And once again, it's not necessarily a wimpy fragrance. I wouldn't call this a fresh fragrance, but it definitely has the fresh, spicy qualities that I think would be perfect to wear instead of the wimpy citruses that you're complaining about. So a great scent here that you can try. The next one I really, really love and I really recommend as a great summer amber. This is Nichoné's Ambra Calabria. It's a very green amber. Amber, bergamot, green notes, galbanum, coriander, vanilla, musk. It does have the amber, it does have the vanilla, but again, it's contrasted with lots of green notes and fresh notes. So it's a nice, you know, I just like that word contrast, and they do work. The contrasting notes do work wonderfully together. And if you want some depth and heft to your fragrances rather than wearing just a straightforward citruses, I think this will really, really do wonderful. So a great scent. I think this is smelling so good. And with the fact that it has the warm notes in addition to those fresh notes in there as well, I think it's a really, really beautiful fragrance to wear in the summertime when you're craving some amber, but you don't want to kind of like cloy yourself out, you know. This next one is focusing on patchouli. This is from the House of Fresh. This is Cannabis Santal, this one right here. And this one I think, you know, focusing on cannabis with sandalwood, and I recently featured it in this cannabis video, but you know, I think it's fresh enough that you can wear all year round, even when it's really warm outside, because it seems kind of thin, but with depth notes, if that makes sense. This Cannabis Santal has notes of dark chocolate, cannabis, rose, vetiver, vanilla, and musk, and all works beautifully together. It does hint at some of Mugler's Angel Amen kind of fragrances because it's a combination of patchouli and dark chocolate and things like that. But I totally think this can be totally worn in the summertime. I think it's a great fragrance. It's not too deep, too rich and things like that, but you have those kind of like deep, rich notes that wear beautifully when it's a little warm outside. I think personally, I've noticed that here in San Francisco, it's always pretty cool. Fragrances don't come alive as much unless I'm in like a warm climate where it's humid, and fragrances really open up on me, like bloom and smell a lot more intense, which is really, really great, is what I'm looking for. This next one is from the House of Berdu, Maison Berdu. This is Oud al Sahra. This is oud, myrrh, and mandarin. And once again, this has myrrh in it, not mandarin. Mandarin is a fresh note, but the myrrh is very resinous and ambery. But I think it's still a kind of fragrance you can wear in the summertime where it won't get too cloying, even though that myrrh is pretty prominent here with the oud. It's a warm, spicy, but I think this warm, spicy fragrance is totally doable. Now again, this is my opinion. You might not react this way to this fragrance. You might think it's overwhelming. So test these all out prior. But personally, I think this isn't that cloying as I've tested it out, and I think it's perfect to wear all year round, especially when it's warm outside. These are the kind of ouds I would pull for. Just look up notes and see what notes are in there. If there's lots of vanilla and amber and things like that, those are the ones you want to avoid if you think it might get cloying for you. But I think this is a great oud, definitely a perfect one. Now there's a few more here, and I'm going to say something before I bring up the two last fragrances. The next one is from Tom Ford. Actually, I'll let you know what it is. It's Oud Wood. When you look up the notes for that, there's no mention of like overdose of vanilla and amber in there. So I think it's perfect to wear when it's warm outside. I can totally see that being replacing your summer Freshies and get more longevity. So also I think designer ouds don't necessarily become ultra beefy in beast mode. So I think if you want to wear ouds in the summertime and you know of some designer ouds, look into them from the Signature line. I've got various videos on the channel of designer ouds. You can check them out to see. Personally, I don't think those get really heavy, and you can totally get away with wearing designer ouds in the summertime. But this is Oud Wood. I think this is perfect fragrance. I think it's one of the best fragrances from this line, and it's mostly universally loved. I think a lot of people do love this one. It does lean a little masculine, which is fine, but this one features notes of oud, rosewood, sandalwood, cardamom, vanilla, Sichuan pepper, vetiver. So as you see, it's mostly fresh, spicy notes. Not necessarily like warm, spicy or warm notes that would kind of get cloying when it's warm outside. I really do recommend this one. Last but not least, I'm going to talk to you about a fragrance called Prism Blues from the house of IDO Parfumeurs. Another patchouli fragrance, but kind of reminds me of Oud Wood with a amped up patchouli, which kind of is really great idea, you know. IDO Parfumeurs Prism Blues is patchouli, oud, cardamom, black pepper, geranium, labdanum. So this one actually does have a little ambery touch, but it's not like one of the main notes in this fragrance, so you can still get away with something like this. So I think that's what I would do if you want to find out about more fragrances that you can wear in the summertime that are not your summer freshies and citruses. I would look up fragrances and see what notes are in them. If they have warm notes, and warm notes again, lots of resins, lots of amber, labdanum, vanilla, you know, those are the notes that are going to make fragrances cloying and really, you know, overwhelming in the summertime. So look for fresh, spicy, look for woods and things like that, and leave out the ambers, resins, and vanilla, and I think you'll be fine. Another note I think I should also avoid is honey. If there's any honey or syrupy kind of notes and things like that, totally avoid them. So I think those should be great suggestions. Hopefully you'll go and get to try them and come back and let me know what you think about them. So question 4 comes from Nana. Hi Sebastian, thanks for everything you do. So I'm graduating this May and I'll need a cologne so I can buy for myself a new niche one. Nana. So this is a little bit of a challenge because I don't really know Nana's preference or taste in fragrances, so I'm going to just offer some suggestions that I think might work for him. He wants niche, and these are all niche for sure. And some of them are unisex targeted that lean masculine, and some of them are masculine or male targeted that are masculine, obviously. Since I don't know his taste, I don't want to get it too unisex. So we're going to do the first one, and the first one that I'm going to recommend is Nichané's Hachivat. And Hachivat, people do compare it to Aventus. I think for me, it's Aventus and then some. To me, it's a lot more sharper, it's a lot more woodsier, it's a lot more intense. And I think it's not as fruity. Like the fruitiness doesn't come off. And although there are different batch variations with Aventus, which I don't want to get into, but I think this is a great alternative for something that is similar to Aventus. I think it's a great scent. It is also overpowering, so a little goes a long way. And since we are heading into summer, I think Nichané's Hachivat will be great. But this features notes of pineapple, oak moss, woods, patchouli, grapefruit, bergamot, jasmine. It's a freshie that has a lot of heft to it, so you can wear it all year round, and I think it'll last a long time every season. And I really love this one. It is a great scent, very fresh and intense at the same time. So Hachivat, a great scent. The next one I'm going to recommend is from the house of Xerjoff. It's Incident Diplomatique. Both of these are unisex targeted. But both, I think, lean masculine for me, at least they do to me. J'avoue Incident Diplomatique, on the other hand, is a vetiver patchouli combo. And I think this one is a little more vetiver than patchouli, and I think vetiver is a great masculine note. The patchouli adds this earthiness to it. They're both earthy notes to begin with. Not green. This is necessarily not a green fragrance. It does have some warm touches. Nutmeg in here, I think, comes off as a warm spice. But with this one, it's lots of vetiver, two kinds of vetiver. We've got patchouli, we've got mandarin orange, nutmeg, sandalwood. But a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. This fragrance and also this fragrance garners me compliments. Pre-pandemic, of course, but both of them do. I've actually been stopped on the street and asked what I'm wearing with this one many times, and people just really react wonderfully to it. So I think it's a classy fragrance. It's a masculine fragrance. I think this will be a great suggestion. The next one I'm going to recommend is a fragrance from the house of Marc-Antoine Barrois. This is Ganymede. A little softer fragrance. It's not necessarily like loud and sharp like the other two, but it's also kind of on the unique side. It's a little minerally, it's a little fruity, it's a little ozonic. Actually, I shouldn't say it's a little ozonic. It's a lot ozonic. And also very, very musky, so it makes for a sexy experience. So I think it doesn't have the screaming qualities as the previous two, but again, I don't know the Nana's taste in fragrances, so I don't know if he likes beast mode, I don't know if he likes other things. So these are just suggestions I think that are perfect for a man that's graduating and needs something new. So Marc-Antoine Barrois Ganymede features mineral notes, violet leaf, immortelle, mandarin, osmanthus, saffron, suede. So it does get a little suede leathery, but not a lot. The osmanthus adds a little bit of a fruitiness, and I think even though osmanthus goes stone fruit accord and leathery, and I think the suede is actually kind of coming off from the osmanthus. I get apples, like there's a crisp green apple crunchiness in here that I really, really, really like. When I smell it, I can get that. Immortelle in here adds a little brown sugary caramelized consistency to the fragrance, but it's all very ozonic. Lots of violet leaf in here and lots of mineral notes. The overall experience is so beautiful. Really great fragrance, so check it out, Marc-Antoine Barrois. If you like something a little different, musky, minerally, ozonic, I think that should be great. The next one I'm going to talk about is Berdu, once again, Maison Berdu, and this is Ars Al Rab. So this one actually is a woody fragrance. It's unisex targeted, but I think it's still, with the notes in here, it's a little masculine leaning. And also, it's not overly complex. So if Nana doesn't like overly complex fragrances, overwhelming fragrances, because the first two I mentioned are pretty overwhelming. This one is a little more subdued, but still it's very, very woody experience, and I think this one will be better. It's all about cedar with iris and ginger. So the cedar note is a great woody note that smells great here. Iris adds a little powdery touches in here. And then of course this ginger adds that zingy bite to it that you start with. I think it's a great wear, and I think this is another one of those fragrances that I answered earlier about wearing kind of woods and things like that, more intense notes in the summertime. You can totally get away with wearing something like this. Even this particular Ganymede, I think it's not overwhelming. I think all the fragrances you can, but some are more intense obviously, so you're going to have to control your sprays. But I really do think this is a great classy fragrance, and if you're more on the budget with your first niche offering, then maybe something like this, because this is under $100 and it's not going to break your bank. So that's Maison Berdu Ars Al Rab. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is from the house of Rouge Perfumery, and this time we're going to an indie niche house, and this is a classy masculine fougere. And as I said, I don't know Nana's taste. Does he like classic barbershop-y type fragrances? We shall see, but this is a great, great scent. It's called Bon Monsieur, and focuses on geranium, lavender, fir, oak moss, cedar, bergamot, sandalwood, lily of the valley, carnation. And Rouge Perfumery does some great work. His fragrances are pretty phenomenal, amazing. I wasn't offering Mousse Illuminé here as a suggestion because I felt like it might go a little too classic. I feel like this Rouge Perfumery Bon Monsieur, even though it's a fougere, it's a barbershop, I think it's very modern for what Manuel Cross has created in this fragrance. I think it's a great recommendation, and definitely all 5 of these fragrances are masculine and they should satisfy Nana with his first niche offering. So that's Rogue Perfumery's Bon Monsieur. I don't know if you guys know these fragrances that I'm recommending, but if you guys were to recommend Nana with fragrances, what would you recommend? Now that you know what I've recommended and not knowing what his taste and preferences are, you know? Let me know. Put a comment down so I can find out. All right, question 5 comes from Brandon. Hi, Sebastian. Absolutely love your content on YouTube and truly appreciate the detail and depth you go into when describing your experiences with fragrances. It's a nice change of pace from those who spend 10 to 15 seconds per and move on. I have a question for you about how to order, if it's at all possible, from Dior's France website. You've mentioned it in a few different videos about fragrances from different houses that are only available on their .fr site, and yet you always have a bottle. On Dior's.fr site, they have both Homme Parfum and Homme Original for sale. I can't seem to really find those anywhere else but that site. How does one order these fragrances if that site won't ship to the US? Any thoughts? Brandon, thanks so much. You're not going to be able to order from France or a Dior website or the French Dior website .fr. The only way that you're going to be able to get these fragrances, otherwise I would have been able to get it myself, Dior Homme Parfum 100 ml, is if you go there or have somebody bring it back or accidentally run into it in a duty-free, because sometimes in duty-frees you can find those fragrances. Those are the only things, those are the only ways you can be able to get these fragrances, sadly. And with the fact that the pandemic was happening all year round last year, I wasn't able to travel abroad to Europe, which I tend to go generally at least once a year, if not a couple times. So because of that, I haven't been able to obtain some fragrances, and of course my Dior Homme Parfum that I've been dying to get for a long time. Yes, it's just the way that brands do these things. I think it's a kind of a notorious thing with these designers. I know Guerlain launches things that are outside of the US. Dior does it both under LVMH. I haven't seen it much with non-LVMH brands, but I mean, Guerlain has a lot of men's fragrances that are only available, like L'Homme Ideal Extreme, the one with the red cap, was only available in Europe. It was not launched here. And these weird marketing things that they're doing, that they think maybe we're just not going to buy this stuff, is crazy, but they do it. I mean, Dior Homme Parfum Original was never even launched in the States. It was available at discounters probably like 6-8 months after it launched in Europe and the rest of the world, but sadly the only way we're going to be able to get these things is if we have, you know, traveling there, or if you have someone that's going. Tell them to get it for you. You know, that's the other thing. A lot of people do that. They have a friend going to France or somewhere, and they beg and plead, and then they end up bringing a bottle back or something. But yeah, I'm dying to go back. Hopefully things will be back to normal for me to go back by the end of this year, because I'm really wanting to go back and see what's available, what I can't get here that I can get there, and something else. But those are the only ways. But there's other ways that I think would be able. I already mentioned this, but I think also once there's an overstock amount of stock, I guess, for these websites, and if they're not selling, they're going to end up at the discounters, and eventually they'll come here. We'll be able to buy them at the discounters eventually, but I think we have to wait for that. So the only way, as I said, have a friend going, a relative going, tell them about it, or if you're going, or you accidentally run into it in duty-free, because sometimes those fragrances do end up in US duty-frees, but they just don't, you know, get distributed here in the States, so that's a sad thing. So question number 6 comes from Rebecca. Hi Sebastian, I have just noticed a brand new collection by Zara with Alberto Morillas, but cannot find a single review online, and I think this is because it is so new. Are you able to review these for your viewers? Unusually they are all EDP concentration, so I do have high hopes for some affordable scents for my son's birthday. Many thanks, Rebecca. So Rebecca had sent that email, I think, a good month ago, and when I finally saw them on Zara's website, they didn't make it to the store. I ordered them and went and picked up at the Zara boutique, and I've been testing them out, and I've got them here. One of them is called Morning Sunray in Sevilla. Another one is called Bohemian Sunset in Barcelona. And lastly, the last one is called Nightfall in Madrid. So first off, I do want to mention I cannot stand Nightfall in Madrid. It's the worst out of the 3, and I hate it. These are all created by Alberto Morillas, and I like him as a perfumer, but he has created several fragrances for different brands that I just cannot stand, and I think it's the note he used. I either don't like it, or I've smelled it over and over, and it's not only used by him, it's used by other perfumers, and it's this very kind of a amber tonka fusion base note that appears in a lot of men's fragrances that kind of also goes aquatic that I cannot stand, absolutely cannot stand. So with the Nightfall in Madrid, that's kind of what I get with it, although it's a little more spicy. But for me, it has a very, very cheap association with it. Like, I don't like this note. It appears too much. I've smelled it too much, not only in one brand or two brands. Actually, there were two fragrances that Alberto Morillas created, one for Robert Graham, Courage, and one of the flankers for Armani, Acqua di Gio, in the brown juice. Forgot the name of that one. They smelled alike to me, and those two fragrances kind of remind me of this one. But you might like it. You could check it out, see what they are all about. These are $29.90, so they are a little pricier than other Zara fragrances. They're still very inexpensive for 100 ml juice. But Nightfall in Madrid has nutmeg, cardamom, tonka beans, sandalwood. So sadly, because I don't like the smell of it, I didn't test this one too much, so I don't know much about it. But as soon as I sprayed it for the first time, I was like, I don't like the smell. I got to get rid of it off of me. So I had to wash it off. I just don't like it. Right. So I'm telling you this now. And so you know which one you might like or not like. But for me, a Nightfall in Madrid was a no-no. But that's not to say the other two are not great as well. The other two are really great for me. So Morning Sunray in Sevilla and Bohemian Sunset in Barcelona. And I really love to travel to Spain, by the way. It's one of my favorite Mediterranean countries. I've been many, many times, and I can't wait to go back to Spain for more traveling very soon. But let's start with Morning Sunray in Sevilla. This is one of the cities I've not been to in Spain. I have been to Barcelona and Madrid. So the bottles do come like this. Like that. The bad thing about these fragrances also is they don't spray very well. It's a bad sprayer. And one thing I should also show you, they have notes listed here, if that'll focus or not. But Morning Sunray in Sevilla is lemon, rosemary, frankincense, jasmine, and tarragon. So Morning Sunray, so morning is associated with dewiness, like dewy, watery kind of plants collecting, this water in the mornings. And this one actually experiences that way, but it is very lemony, very, very herbal, aromatic, rosemary. Frankincense does come in, but not a lot. And it does have this kind of slight licoricey aromatic touch from the tarragon with a little floral angle of the jasmine in here. For me, it's mostly about the lemon with rosemary. The other notes that I mentioned kind of like are enhancing this experience. And there is that watery touch under there, like the dewy touch under there for me, and it works great. So I think it's a great, inspiration. It's a great inspiration for this fragrance, and it does work for me, but it's a freshie. It's an overdose of freshness. It's not anything long lasting, so the fragrance disappears quite fast off of me, but they're so cheap that you can continuously spray them and it won't break your bank, kind of a thing, And I like the bottles a lot. They've done a good job. I haven't read this. I like the packaging and everything, even though it's packaging that's a little on the cheap side. But I think they've done a good job. They've done what they can for the amount they're charging for this fragrance. It's $29.90, which is awesome. And they are eau de parfums, but still they don't act like eau de parfums, because the two that I like out of the collection are the two Freshies. And for me, I'm getting about 3.5 to 4.5 hours approximately, not a lot more. But, if you're not getting the performance out of your fragrances, the fresh fragrances, you can always use enhancers like Molecule 1 to layer down and then spray some of this on it. I know it's going to enhance the smell a little bit, but it's also going to make it last a little longer. Either way, I really like the Morning Sunray in Sevilla, and I think I'll put it to use. I think it's going to be a great freshie, but I would save it for some really, really warm days. I think warm days are going to be perfect for it, or if you need a pick-me-up when it's cool outside and you want that kind of like fresh citrusy wake-up thing, kind of a thing in the mornings. So the other one that I really like is also Bohemian Sunset in Barcelona. I really, really like this one, even though it's got the sea breeze note in there. And the juice of this one is a little darker. It's a little greener as well, as you can see right there. And I do like these bottles. And one more thing I forgot to say, these sprayers are the worst. They do not spray well. So if you bought one to, to decant for somebody to give it to them, because the several times I was spraying them to wear these fragrances, they're like choking kind of a thing. So they're not the best sprayers, but I think they're not going to give us the best sprays because they're only charging us $30 for 100 ml, So Bohemian Sunset in Barcelona, once again, is $29.90. And it is eau de parfum, and all three, as I said, is created by Alberto Morillas. This one's bergamot, sea breeze, mineral notes, and cedarwood. And I think it's exactly that. It has a very afternoon kind of a glow kind of experience with this one. I think the mineral notes does that. The sea breeze kind of adds this sea freshness. It doesn't get overly aquatic, thankfully, and I do like this one. As I said, I like it a lot. In fact, I like it equally with Morning Sunray and Sevilla. Cedarwood is the base note, so it dries to kind of a woody base. But this one, once again, it's all very citrusy, an overdose of freshness. And I think it makes sense to have the sea breeze because Barcelona is on the coast and things like that. So I really like this one a lot. I really like wearing it. And I think I give credit to Zara for doing these fragrances, even though a lot of them do seem like clones. And of course, I don't think this is a clone because it's done by Alberto Morillas, but of course perfumers copy their own work for other brands. As I was talking about recently with Jacques Cavalier doing fragrances for Louis Vuitton and then making something very similar to Bulgari. So I'm sure he's probably done something like this, or maybe he's not, I don't know, but we're not breaking any new ground with these fragrances, what I'm saying, but in the end, they do smell very fresh and very pleasant, and I think they're worth the price that they're charging for these fragrances. Anyway, that's my second favorite. It's Bohemian Sunset in Barcelona. And sorry that I didn't care for Nightfall in Madrid, but I can't like everything. I just don't like that smell, and it reminds me too much of those kind of very, very popular men's designer fragrances. Even though it's a unisex offering, that one note, that like kind of aquatic amber tonka combo that's really, really prominent in a lot of designer fragrances for men was very prominent in there, and it kind of turns me off. Anyway, I hope you liked my thoughts on these fragrances, and hopefully, Rebecca, you'll get one of these for your son if you haven't already. But let me know if you've sampled these fragrances, what your thoughts are. Do you like Nightfall in Madrid? Or do you hate it like me? Which one of these fragrances is your favorite if you've sampled them? Put a comment down so I can find out. All right, question 7 comes from Isima. Hello, Sebastian. I was wondering if you'd do a comparison, contrast between Xerjoff's Accento Overdose and Kajal's Lamar, or was it Dahab? Still at the sidelines of the scene, I'm not even sure this would be a match that makes any sense to compare. If that's the case, please humor me and say why not. But if you think it's worth touching on in a video, please do so. Would be much appreciated. Best, Isima. So Isima wants a comparison between Xerjoff Accento Overdose, I should say Accento Overdose, with either Kajal's Dahab or Kajal's Lamar. So all three of them are fruity fragrances, and all three go in different directions. Even though they have fruits in them, they don't smell or wear similarly. So Kajal's Dahab is this one, is the first one that I discovered from this house. I discovered it probably 4 years ago, and it focuses on passion fruit with apples. So it's a very fruity experience. It's sweet, and it's actually really, really beautiful to wear, and it's fun to wear. But the thing is, in comparison to the other two fragrances, this one seems to be the powderiest, and I get a dusty, woody, dust kind of experience. So it doesn't wear syrupy sweet like the other two, although I think the most syrupy sweet is Lamar in comparison to Xerjoff Accento Overdose. But this particular fragrance, even though it's got the fruits in it, it has a very powdery quality to it, and it's just almost like you're throwing up powdered woods, and it's mixed with fruits and things like that. That's the experience I have with this one. But it's loads of passion fruit. It's very tropical. It has musk, green apples, amber, bergamot, patchouli, and coriander. So it has spicy touches, but it's an overdose of sweetness with fruits. It's very, very tropical. It's musky, and it's woody as well. Now, I think it's a great fragrance, and I really enjoy it, but I actually, since this came out, or since another has come out, Lamar, I kind of enjoy Lamar a little more than Dahab. because for me, I always say I don't like dusty fragrances as much as I like syrupy fragrances, or I should also actually say powdery, because this is not powdery whatsoever in comparison to the Dahab. So I do like this one a little more, and this is also a little warmer for me. This one doesn't have the warmth that this one has. This to me acts like more of a honey drizzled fruits, so you're wearing that. And I don't get the honeyed effect with the Dahab, if that makes sense to you guys. But Lamar I have a full review of on the channel, you can go catch it, but features notes of pineapples, red berries, apples, roses, vanilla, amber, cedar, and cashmere. So as you notice the fruits, this is passion fruit with apples. This does have apples in it, but it has red berries and pineapples as well. And it also has the rose that this one doesn't have. But there is a very vanillic ambery quality here, and that's what's giving me this kind of like honeyed fruits covered with honey kind of an experience, like a fruit compote with syrup on top or something. That's the experience I get with Lamar. It's really, really delicious, and it's pineapples, lots of it. It's the most prominent fruity note in here, next to the apples and red. I think, yeah, it's definitely the highlight note of the whole fragrance, and it's a really delicious concoction. I like that whole analogy of it reminding me of a fruit compote with syrup on it, because that's the experience I get with it. And the fact that it's also ambery, sweet, and warm, I think it wears better on my skin. It does last longer than Dahab does, because as I say, I have dry skin, and powdery dry fragrances don't last as long as syrupy, warm fragrances do. So that is Lamar. Now, on the other hand, we have Accento Overdose, which is from the house of Xerjoff, which is also fruity, but nothing like these two. I think the only similarities in here are the fruits. There's a little rose in here, but it's not too rosy. I get a lot of other white flowers that are more prominent in here than the rose, but I think the similar notes with this one in comparison to Lamar would be the rose in here, and then of course the fruits. But Xerjoff Accento Overdose, fruity notes, jasmine, lily of the valley, rose, green notes, aldehydes, pine, and eucalyptus. And for me, this one is the greenest of them all, and not as syrupy. And it does have ambery touches, but again, I think the warmest fragrance out of the three is Lamar. This one has a coolness about it, and it has a freshness about it, and more floral experience than the other two. It's fruity, but it's also almost the same amount of fruits in here. We have like jasmine comes in, and lily of the valley comes in as well. So those add this floral touch to the fragrance, and it's a green experience to begin with green notes, but lily of the valley to me screams green flower to me as well. So you got that in addition, so it's an overdose of greenness. So fruits are here, but I think the fruits are enhancing the experience, and enhancing the flowers and everything like that. It doesn't act very fruity, even though it's lots of fruits, because the jasmine that's really, really prominent here kind of dominates along with the fruits, so it's toning down the fruitiness. And also the fact that we're just not knowing what the fruits are. I feel like there's a little pineapple in here. I feel like there's a little bit of melons in here. So does it go aquatic? Melons tend to go aquatic. It's not really an aquatic experience, so there's that. So I think it's just nondescript fruitiness rather than the fact that you know this fruitiness in the other two and you can actually pin it out. For me, I get a little pineapple-y touch. I do get a little bit of a melony touch. Maybe there's a little passion fruit as well, because it does go a little tropical, not too much. So I think it's just a nondescript kind of fruits in here. But the aldehydes also is very prominent in here. So it gives you a very easier to wear experience. There's a lightness about it, even though I think this fragrance has great longevity. I've worn it in really, really warm weather, humid weather, and it has great longevity. It doesn't wear heavy and cloying, if that makes sense, because aldehydes tend to have very light touches or lightness about fragrances, so there is a lighter experience with this one. So those are my thoughts about these three. They're not identical. I think out of the three, Accento Overdose is the least fruity, I would say. It's fruity. I'm just going to clarify once again. It's fruity, but I think the fact that jasmine is so prominent in there, it kind of tones down the fruitiness. Does that make sense? I think out of all of them, the fruitiest is Lamar, with a Dahab right behind it. And Lamar, as I said, is the warmest, with the warm kind of syrupy honeyed experience I get with this one. Very ripe fruits in comparison to the Dahab. Dahab for me is very, very powdery. So I feel like even though I enjoy the fragrance, I feel like this is better for me because it's the kind of fruity fragrance I like more than Dahab. Does that make sense? One more thing I want to say I had experienced in Spain is this wonderful little gadget. It's a mister, a perfume mister that I bought, that I brought back from Spain, and it's filled up with Dahab. And the store was using it. It's from a perfume shop in the south of France, not south of France, the south of Spain, called Niche Perfumes, and they sell this there. And they basically fill it up in the back with any perfume you want. It comes with 3 cartridges, and you go like that, and it mists inside your space, and then you can have this really beautiful aroma. Currently, it's filled with Dahab. And I'm smelling a passion fruit right now, and it smells great. I love it for that particular usage. It's a really, really wonderful, pleasant smell. I really like it. Anyway, those are my thoughts on these 3 fragrances. Hopefully it answered your question. But let me know if you've compared these 3 fragrances. Which one is your favorite? I'd like to find out. Everybody has different opinions on them, and everybody wears fragrances differently. So I'd like to hear from you guys what you think about the 3 fragrances and if you've compared the 3. The next question comes from Khalil. Dear Sebastian, I hope this email finds you well. I went to Singapore and the Carlton City Hotel lobby was smelling great with the ambient scent. When I asked about the scent smell, they said it's Amalfi Coast scent from Scent Air Inc. Then I found the notes of that smell, which is as follows. Top notes, lime and green watery notes. Middle notes, lavender and eucalyptus. Base notes, amber, sandalwood. So my question is, what are the niche or designer fragrances with similar notes, smells? Khalil. For me, this is a very complicated subject. When you smell something from one brand, to try and replicate it to smell similar yourself is not going to work out. First of all, we don't know where Scent Air Inc. gets their notes from, and where the people that get where they get the notes from, where they resource their raw materials from. So if I was going to put together, let's say I put together a fragrance with those notes, it's going to smell completely different than what you smelled in that lobby, or if it was a perfume that you wore or somebody had on and you got the notes but you don't have the name, kind of a thing. So that is a complicated question, and for me to find fragrances that are similar to this, it was actually when I was doing notes, I was putting together the notes to come up with something. It was going in different directions, so it really wasn't working. So I think for me to be able to find something that smells like that is going to be extremely, extremely complicated. I think best way for you to find a fragrance that smells like that so you can wear it, because I've been in this situation. I've gone to plenty of hotel lobbies, and there was a time when it was very trendy to have smells in hotel lobbies, very trendy ones, to have like really, really unique, sexy smells, kind of, connected with the ambiance of that particular hotel. And I've smelled plenty, but nobody was able to tell me what the scent is and things like that. So the fact that you got the notes is really, really great, but I think for you to find something that smells similar is probably going to be something you will have to actually, find fragrances with those base notes and see what they have in the top notes and the heart notes to see if it'll come together. Get some samples and things like that, because this to me smells aquatic from reading the notes, and also it seems green because they have that green watery note. And I've never seen green watery notes come up, and what does green watery notes mean? So most likely a green accord or a green notes of some kind together with watery notes is what they're referring to. Not necessarily green water, because there's no such thing as green water unless you add green color to it, right? So most likely they're talking about watery notes with green notes. Green notes is so usually, I've done plenty of videos on green notes. You can watch videos about the green fragrances. In fact, I just did one for Earth Day, earthy fragrances. But as I said, this is more of an aquatic leaning fragrance to me. I think I think the place you went to, the city or the country, seems to be really near the coast, so they might be inspired by their landscape and territory, or terroir is what I was going to say, and it's inspired by where they are and the kind of scent it is. Definitely fresh, definitely uplifting, breezy, kind of aquatic mixture of notes. So I think the best thing I would do is just put together notes in the databases and see what comes up, and then maybe you'll find a fragrance. But as I was doing something like that with different databases, the fragrances it was giving me were not really working, and the fact that when you add every single note, nothing comes up. So there really is nothing that exists with those fragrance notes. Most likely there is, just not documented or something. And as I said, if you try and compose that note breakdown yourself, it's not going to smell the same, because it's not going to be from the same places that company buys their ingredients from. So you can put together those notes together, but it'll smell completely different. It won't smell the same. I mean, I've done projects like that. I've taken some classes in perfumery, and I've tried to replicate fragrances that I like, end up smelling completely different. So it all comes together with all these different things in consideration. So that's what I would do. I would actually just start smelling stuff. Go and try and start smelling some watery fragrances, some aquatic fragrances, some fresh, refreshing fragrances. And that's probably the best way you're going to find a fragrance that comes close to it. And you might not even find something that's really close, but I think that's a good start. That's what I would do. But if you guys that are watching, if you've had something similar come up and you were able to track down a fragrance that smells like it, let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out what you ended up doing. But that's what I would do. Question number 9 comes from Giorgio's. Hello, Sebastian. After I fall in love with Amber Absolute, I looked out for more scents that kind of and discovered Evody Ambre Intense. A great bold amber. This could be your ballpark too. As I cannot find many reviews on YouTube to this house, maybe that's a good chance to ask for bottles and show us their collections. In my opinion, not that expensive, but the quality is stunning. Cheers from Germany, Giorgio's. So I've traveled to Europe quite a bit, and when I go to Paris, I stop into Xerjoff, and there they sell the brand Evody. I'm not too familiar with it, but I do have one of their fragrances called Bois Secret, or Secret, right here. I think it's a pretty pleasant woody fragrance. It's spicy, it wears nice, but yeah, I would like to explore this house. Unfortunately though, when I went to Xerjoff's website, this was out of stock, but some of their other fragrances were there. But I do need to be familiar with this house. I remember seeing their fragrances with different bottles, and they've gone through a bottle facelift now, but I quite like this one. I mean, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking or anything like that, but it's a good woody fragrance. But with Evody's Bois Secret, or Secret, notes are tonka beans, amber, nutmeg, sandalwood, black pepper, bergamot, patchouli. So it's definitely woody, fresh and spicy at the same time. There are some powdery elements here, very aromatic, and then amber, it dries to like a woody ambery base. And once again, I have the fragrance. I don't tend to pull for it. And I also don't know a lot about the brand to actually pull or find more fragrances. But if you recommend their amber, no, I'm curious to check it out to see what it's all about. But how many of you know this brand, and how many of you know their amber and this Bois Secret, or Secret, from this brand? Let me know. Put a comment down. But as I said, I would love to explore the house and see what other fragrances they have. And it seems like they are definitely not over the top expensive, but around $200 per bottle. So it's pricey, but not ultra pricey, if that makes sense. All right, next question comes from Steven. Hey Sebastian, I purchased 2 50 ml bottles of Kilian and got them shipped to my girlfriend's brother's house in Lithuania. I was going to have him ship them to me, but then I discovered that I may not be allowed to ship the bottles by mail. Do you have any information on this? My girlfriend may be going there in the summer, but I wasn't sure if there is also a restriction to having them in the checked bag as well. Can you please shed some light on this dilemma for me? Thank you, Steven. So first of all, I I get fragrances shipped to me from all over the world all the time. Not only does it come from companies that might have, you know, corporate mail or shipping accounts, but I also get them from, you know, just general public or people that I have as friends throughout the world that send me fragrances as well. So you can ship them, but you have to check with that country's rules or laws or whatever. But it's definitely doable. I think, as I said, I get fragrances almost on a daily basis. Not everything comes from Europe or the rest of the world, but a lot does, and it comes through. And then some companies have really great rates too. But since, as I said, this is coming from one person, probably is not in the business of perfume selling and things like that, it'll probably also cost a lot of money. So I would just find out what you can find out if you're going to have it shipped. But if you're going to have it, you know, brought back, I don't think there's really any limit on what you can put in your suitcase as long as you have the room. I brought back so much fragrances. I have videos on the channel about this topic. You can go watch. Don't do a carry-on. They'll confiscate it unless you don't have... I don't know what the latest rules are per mil, you know, carry-on. But any perfumes, especially a large bottle, a beautiful bottle, expensive perfume, I would never do carry-on unless you bought it at duty-free after you've gone through security. So always put it in the suitcase. And again, you have to feel comfortable with doing this. I don't have a problem bringing back full suitcase full of fragrances, but if you do, you don't want to kind of look nervous when you're running through the security and things like that. So, but if you have 1, 2, 3 bottles, I don't think that's going to be a problem whatsoever. Bring those back. I mean, I don't think anything's going to be a problem. If you have the room, you have enough room for 5 bottles or 10 bottles. Bring it. And also, if your what do you call it, the presentation is really heavy, and it might, you know, increase the weight of your suitcase, and you don't care for the presentation, you don't mind bringing just the bottles, then definitely like wrap them up with like sweaters and pants and things like that, and stuff them in your suitcase that way, so that they'll keep them cushioned, it won't break the, you know, the bottles, and also you don't have that extra weight of the presentation, which maybe some of you do want that presentation, but some of you don't care for it. I've never really had anything break, thankfully. I've traveled so many times to Europe, never had anything break. But I did buy some inexpensive fragrances, an off-brand somewhere, and they did leak. Not break, but, you know, they were not, you know, they were not like created very perfectly, the sprayer part, and it was 3 bottles of the same. It was so inexpensive. 2 out of the 3 leaked, sadly. But anyway, thankfully I haven't had anything break. I've even bought, you know, champagne, alcohol, and things like that. Sometimes I go through duty free and buy them, but sometimes I'm bringing them throughout, you know, my suitcases. They're all nicely wrapped with clothes. So just do that. Just cushion them a lot. Don't put anything hard near them so they can, you know, touch in the suitcase and crack. So that's the thing you got to worry about. Just lots of cushion, lots of clothes, and then, you know, you'll make them cushioned enough that you can get through. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I think you just have to investigate what your country or the country you're shipping from will allow for you to ship. But I get fragrances sent to me all the time, so I think it shouldn't be any problems. All right, question 11 comes from Jimenez. Hey Sebastian, I would like to get a Maison Christian Dior scent for me as a birthday present. I tried Terra yesterday and fell in love with it, but I think it does not perform at all. They gave me 2 Terra samples. Today I used one of them and the same stuff. Love the smell, but the performance is not as good as I wish. Maybe if I spray a little bit more from the actual bottle, it may perform better. My main question is it worth the price? Also, I would like to know your thoughts on wearing Rouge Trafalgar as a 20-year-old guy. Ha ha ha. I like the smell, but I find it a little bit feminine. Maybe it will grow on me. I also got 2 samples. I'll be wearing it this week. Finally, I got my nose on Balade Sauvage too. I don't have any samples, but I may go back to Dior to smell it again. I also tried it yesterday and enjoyed it, but today I watched the comparison you did on YouTube between Balade Sauvage and Dior Dune and got interested in trying it again. What do you think? Which scent may suit a 20-year-old guy? Have a great week, Sebastian. I really like your videos. Well, it seems Jimenez is having a little bit of a dilemma trying to figure out which fragrance would work for him. So he likes Terra, which I have a bottle here, and I can understand why it might be a little weak. He thinks Rouge Trafalgar might be a little feminine, but I think, yes, it might lean on the feminine side of unisex. I agree with him. And then he likes the idea of Balade Sauvage, which I think out of the three, my favorite is Balade Sauvage. Which one would I recommend him try? I guess after trying all three, which he feels more comfortable is the one he should go with, and which of course works the best. For me, I think Terra, even though I have a bottle, I was kind of conned into buying it. And I wear it, as you can see. I was conned into buying it at Neiman Marcus because they said it was going to be discontinued. Later I found out that this is kind of the thing they say there because they're not going to sell the fragrance anymore, but it's not really discontinued because it's still on Dior's website. But that's the reason I bought it. I like the smell. I really do. It's a combination of cypress. It's a cypress-focused fragrance, cypress trees, with orange blossom and myrtles. That's the only notes that they credit for this. But you know, along the way, you do get some bergamots in here. I do get bergamot. There's some light aromatic touches in there as well. It could be like basil or maybe a little rosemary or clary sage or things like that. And then of course myrtle to me is also, it's a flower, but it has very aromatic qualities. It's almost like an herb. So I think the whole experience is very aromatic and woody. And I can see that it's light. It kind of disappears pretty fast. And if you really like this fragrance, I would actually recommend you probably maybe get Molecule 1 and spray Molecule 1 and then spray this on top. It would make the fragrance a little woodier and extend the life a little bit. That's the thing it would do. But I can see why this is not performing, and I've heard this before. I do enjoy the scent a lot. It's a great scent, but out of the three, still Balade Sauvage is my favorite. Now going to Rouge Trafalgar, it's a fruity, it's an overdose of fruits, and lots of strawberry here, raspberry, grapefruit, blackcurrant, patchouli, oranges, cherries, and musk. So in the end, it's a fruity musk experience with lots of citruses, so lots of fruits, citruses, and musk. And that patchouli kind of adds an extra layer of, you know, this kind of like substance to it, kind of adds a little sexiness to it. And I can totally see, I think fruits are associated with feminine fragrances. I'm just something that I hear from folks. I love fruity fragrances, and I like the patchouli in here and the muskiness. So I don't find it overly feminine because I like to wear fruity fragrances, but I can see that this being a fruit too fruity. But you know what, as I always say, if you're a man and you think it's feminine, your chemistry is going to bring out the more masculine sides of the fragrance because male chemistry versus female chemistry is different. So it'll smell different on women than it'll smell on men, if that makes sense. If you like it and you're comfortable wearing it, I recommend you get this one. Now on the other hand, Balade Sauvage, I really, really love Balade Sauvage. I liked it when I bought it, cause I wanted it because I love fig, but it's grown on me so much, and that's why I did a comparison video of this with Dior's Sauvage. And I also did another video called Dior is so Sauvage because they do use this word a lot, Sauvage, in their fragrances. Is this like the 4th or 5th fragrance that's using? Not the flankers, but the word sauvage. I think it may be the 3rd. But you know, this one's focusing on figs, the fig trees, the fig fruit, their solar notes, aldehydes, marine notes, peaches, petitgrain, labdanum, orange blossom, bergamot, hedione. It's a very sunshiny and atmospheric fragrance for me. It's inspired by an island and the rocks that are on the coast in this particular island. I don't really know which island, but that's the inspiration, and they've captured it with the trees of the fig trees nearby and the fruits and the smells and everything with these with this kind of like landscape smell. I like it. It's not sauvage, it's not wild or anything like that, or savage, but as a smell, it's a great scent, and it is my favorite. But it's up there with Rouge Trafalgar, and Rouge Trafalgar is very close to being a tie with this one because I like them both equally. So I think it's best for you to try them side by side, all three of them, and see what works, which one gravitates, you know, which scent do you gravitate towards more. Then if you like Terra because it's a little more masculine than Rouge Trafalgar, then if you want to wear it, you can get any like primer or enhancer or booster type of a fragrance where you spray that on first, then you spray the Terra, and it might change the smell a little bit depending on what's in those enhancers and boosters or primers, but in the end you'll have the fragrance last a little longer. I would recommend you test all these out, and if you want to find out more about primers, enhancers, and boosters, I have a video on the channel that I focus on those fragrances, but one of the fragrances that I would look into is either Eccentric Molecules Molecule 1 or Molecule 2. Those are definitely one-dimensional molecule fragrances that you can use to spray on first and then spray on your Terra on top to extend the life a little bit. So that's what I would do. I'm sure you'll make the correct decision with which one you like or want to get. But for me, out of all of them, Balade Sauvage is my favorite. I really love it. And I love figs. I'm from the Mediterranean, so I just love the way figs smell to begin with. So that's why I gravitate towards this one a lot. So that's Balade Sauvage. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Hi, Sebastian. I wear Eccentric 01 and have worn it for over 10 years plus. To say I'm in a rut is an understatement. And I'm looking for a new fragrance. I really like your reviews on YouTube. Your knowledge base and memories associated with fragrance is something I can relate to. I love your passion and ability to communicate what you smell. You're super cool and I dig you. Well, thank you. Based on your reviews, I ordered Le Labo Bergamote 22, another 13, Banana Republic 78 Vintage Green, and 90 Pure White. MFK Aqua Universalis, I found a little one-dimensional, but we'll try it again based on your review. I tried to order a sample of Ether Citrus Ester, but it's out of stock on Scentbird. I don't like strong fig, although I like fig stem leaves in small doses. I don't like iris, and definitely not powdery. I stay away from beast mode and strong silage. I do like clean citrus floral cedar, ISO E Super. How about a fresh green patchouli? Can you please recommend any other fragrances I should try? I will continue to watch you and wish you well. My best, Joanna. So Joanna likes, I think, more simplistic fragrances, minimalistic fragrances, masculine-leaning fragrances, I think, maybe a little bit. And she tends to like patchouli. I think we have a connection here. So I'm going to recommend some fragrances for Joanna. And I'm going to start out with one of the more intense ones. And it's a new one that I'm really digging, and it focuses on patchouli. This is called Un Patchouli from Obvious. And this one is focusing on patchouli with tonka beans. It has cade oil, tolu balsam, cedar, and sandalwood. So it is not green, and it's also not beast mode, but probably one of the more intense experiences out of all the fragrances I'm going to recommend today. But since you like patchouli, I thought I'd recommend it to you. It does have that warm touch of tolu balsam, which actually gives it that ambery vibe. So it's an ambery experience with patchouli, but that tonka bean comes in with cade oil, sandalwood, and cedar. I definitely recommend this one, but keep in mind it is stronger, so if you like them light, please sample first. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is from a house called Hermetica, and this is Source One. And I don't talk a lot about this brand, but I think Source One is a great fragrance, not only to wear minimalistically, but to use as a layering tool, which the previous topic I was recommending. Source One is mostly about bergamot, woods, and amber. And what they say about these fragrances from Hermetica is you can, rub them in your hands. You don't have to let it dry, kind of a thing. So you can lay this one down and then put something else on. Perhaps you can do this with ISO E Super, like the Eccentric Molecules, or wear it on its own. It's not overly intense. Again, Joanna does not like beast mode, so this is not beast mode on its own. It's very minimalistic, but bergamot, woods, and amber is what you get with it, and I think it's great. And the fact that you can, moisturize yourself with the oiliness of this. It's not overly oily. That's the cool thing, because I don't really like oily fragrances, and I don't like dabbing oils on, because I explained it earlier in this video. But I think I really do like this particular fragrance, not only for enhancing other Hermetica fragrances or enhancing other brands or wearing it on its own. So check out Source One. I do recommend that one. The next one I'm going to recommend is from the house of Juliette Has a Gun. It's their new one. It's Pear Ink. And I'm recommending this one. It's because of your love for Eccentric 01. And this one has a fruity pear touch along with ambroxan. And ambroxan is another note you should check out. So you can check out the brand, this brand's Not a Perfume and Not a Perfume Superdose as well. But with this one, it's lots of pear with musk, ambroxan, and ambertolide. It's slightly minimalistic, but it has a fruity touches of the pear. It's musky, a light ambery touch running throughout it. But I enjoy it to wear it, and I think it's a fun fragrance because pear, the smell of the pear in here is fun and fruity, but everything else kind of gets woody and lightly ambery from the notes that they're using in here. So Juliette Has a Gun Pear Ink is a great scent. You should check it out. I really do like that one. Now this one is a new one. Since you do like ISOE Super, you should try What We Do Is Secrets Mono Scent E. It's using timber silk, which is another name for a type of ISOE Super. Once again, it's minimalistic, but I find this one in comparison to Molecule 1, which is ISOE Super, this is timber silk, this one has a creamy factor to it that ISOE Super in Molecule 1 doesn't. That's a lot more dry, woody. This one is a creamy, woody experience, which is different, and I like it. And it's a different kind of, or an alternative to, you know, wearing Molecule 1 as a fragrance. So that is a great scent. I really like it. It's clean, it's musky, a little ambery. There's a little sexiness in there as well, but I really do enjoy something like this. So it's Mono Scent E. And this is actually brand new. I don't know if you've heard about this one, but this is Eccentric Molecules Molecule 1 plus Patchouli. They came out with 3 fragrances, flankers to Molecule 1. One is Patchouli, this one I'm recommending. Another one is Mandarin, which I would also recommend. I don't have it here today. And they also have one with Iris. This is Patchouli, and it's really, really great. And it works wonderful with the woodiness of the ISOE Super. So I think you're going to like this one. It's not green. It's not a green patchouli, but I guess patchouli does have some green touches in there, but it's not like an overdose of greenness, if that makes sense. But I think it's a great, great fragrance. Minimalistic, but with that sexy patchouli in there, works great. So that is one that you should definitely try. I really highly recommend that one. This is another one that's come up. I spoke about it earlier in another question, but this is Fresh Cannabis Santal. This does have a little more green touch in here, but it focuses on patchouli. It has dark chocolate, it has cannabis, rose, vetiver, vanilla, and musk. It doesn't wear dense. It's a lighter experience. I think this I don't know if it's reformulation, I don't know what it's gone through, but I felt like this fragrance maybe would have been a lot more intense when I had first sampled it in their other bottles. Since this bottle it's a little lighter, that's why I'm recommending it now. It doesn't have a depth, like a really strong depth to it, which makes it easier to wear. But you do get the cannabis, you do get the patchouli, and the dark chocolate comes in as well, and a great recommendation. So if you like it, I would sample it, get a sample, or go to Sephora. I think Sephora sells that brand because Fresh is under LVMH. This next one is a great recommendation for a minimalistic fragrance focusing on those synthetic molecules. This is DS and Durga's I Don't Know What, which features ISOE Super with bergamot, vetiviral acetate, ambrox, and civitone. It's very, very sexy. It's not overwhelming. It has a woodiness to it. It has an amberiness to it, slight aquatic touches to it, but the bergamot and the civitone comes in as well. Makes for a very, very sexy fragrance, and in the heat it comes alive. It's made to wear minimalistically on its own or to enhance other fragrances. It does say that on here, an enhancer. So another one you might want to try and check out. And any of these fragrances I'm recommending today, you can also combine them with them because they're not quite overwhelming. So do check this one out. It's DS and Durga's I Don't Know What. Highly recommended by me as a minimalistic fragrance on its own for yourself or something to layer with. A few more fragrances. I highly recommend this one. It's less expensive. It's Yves Rocher Nouveau Genre with patchouli and tonka beans. I was getting major compliments with this one when I first bought it and was wearing it in the heat in the south of France. Again, it wears light. It's all about patchouli. It's not overwhelming. It's not intense. It's not beast mode or anything like that. You do have a trail though, but I overspray anyway. So if you don't overspray, this one's probably not going to garner too many compliments. But I was being stopped and asked been told that my fragrance is great. Patchouli always has a sexy vibe to it, a sexy smell, and I like it, and I love this one. Inexpensive. Yves Rocher does sales. Sometimes they're 50% off. Their regular price is about $90, I think, for that. So sometimes it goes down to as low as $45, so it's great. Another lighter you know, almost transparent kind of patchouli fragrance is DFG's. Another one that I recommend that's kind of similar to the nouveau genre is one from this house, DFG, and it's Il Mercante di Sogni. I'm recommending it because you like cedar. It also has patchouli, amber, and musk. And I think it's similar to the nouveau genre. It's gonna, if you like overspray the fragrance, you probably get attention. But if you're doing 2-3 sprays, I think it'll be a perfect fragrance. Kind of minimalistic, or also like a transparent leaning kind of a wearing experience that I think will be perfect. This might be a little more complicated to get, but I really like this one, and I highly recommend it as a fragrance for someone that loves patchouli and cedar. The next one I'm recommending is a New York-based fragrance house called Olfactory New York City, and it's Reed. This one has sage, rose, and clearwood. Clearwood is patchouli, and it smells really, really great. It is a green experience, and you could see the greenness in this bottle, as you can see there. So it has a green experience with that sage. The rose doesn't come in too much. If you don't like rose, it's okay. This one is not overwhelming with the rose, but the patchouli is the main star, the clearwood. And I think this one really works great with that aromatic sage note thrown in. So definitely check that one out. 2 more to go. Recommending Original from Jeroboam. This is the Jeroboam Musk that's in all their fragrances. So it's slightly minimalistic, but with a little more depth to it. And Jeroboam's Original has cade, sandalwood, musk, bergamot, pink pepper. And I think it really does smell great. It's a little more complex, as I said, not minimalistic, but you can control your sprays. It is also kind of on the masculine side, and it's a little musky as well, but really on the woody angle, or woody side. So that's Original from Jeroboam. And this is one I'm going to recommend, even though it's male targeted. This actually is great scent, and you might dig it. It's H24 from Hermes. It's on the light side, but I feel like as a smell, it's a great fragrance. It focuses on clary sage, narcissus, metallic notes, and palisander rosewood. So it's not like a floral bomb. Narcissus doesn't act like your floral fragrance. Here, it's a minerally, metallic, woody, aromatic, green experience. So I really think this one actually would work if you like the kind of smells that you wrote to me that you like. I think you should try it, get a sample, and see what you think. It's not a screamer, it's not beast mode, which is what I said in my review. I think I'm waiting for their next flanker, the eau de parfum, or a parfum version, whatever they'll come out with. But as a light fragrance, I think this will be perfect for you. Even though you're a woman and it's a male targeted scent, I think you should definitely check it out. It's H24 from Hermes. Anyway, that's the last question, guys. Thanks so much for watching today's long video. Stay tuned for some of these questions to be videos on their own very soon. But if you have any questions or comments or any questions about the videos or the questions that I spoke about today, please put it down. I'd like to find out. And if you have questions for me to potentially do a video about for you in the future, you can send those to lfsgquestions@gmail.com. And once again, if you haven't checked out my t-shirts, please do. This one seems to be my most popular. I'd rather wear perfume, seems to be selling a lot, so if you haven't gotten yours, please do. It comes in multiple sizes and styles for women, for men. And as I said, I have a discount code. It's CHANNEL, CHANNEL. And I think this is a great t-shirt. I wear this one at home, and when I'm going out, walking and trying to get steps and things like that. I usually don't wear them on camera, but yeah, I hope you guys can check it out. There's a lot more t-shirts there that I've produced, styles and things like that. So hopefully you guys will check it out. Again, they have a link in the info box. Either way, guys, appreciate you tuning in today. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video, top 20. Other than that, please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.